What's up, YouTube? Welcome to Automotive Life. My name is Lucky, and today we're here at Voodoo, and I'm getting an exhaust put on my Audi R8. Now, this brought up a really good question. Does modifying your car affect the value of your vehicle? Now, there's going to be a lot of people telling you yes and telling you no, but we're going to give you a little bit of a better breakdown on how it works. And we're going to give you from three different sides: as a dealership, as a consumer, as well as a bank, because a lot of people will talk about the personal end. Well, if this car is nice or it has these exhausts, I'll pay more money for it. But I'm going to tell you what the banks think and what the dealers think, so this way you can get the full picture on knowing if modifying your car will affect the value of it. So a lot of people have misconceptions of when it comes to modifying and customizing your car. Now, right here we have a Lamborghini Urus. It's beautiful. It's got some aftermarket wheels, wide body kit. I absolutely love the way it looks and the way it stands. Right here we have a Lamborghini Huracan. It's got a custom carbon fiber front end, forged carbon fiber roof, spoiler, aggressive wheels. This thing has a supercharged kit and an e-brake in there, so you can do some amazing drift stuff in this. And then we also have this Mclaren, very tastefully done, a nice mix between carbon fiber and colored panels. I like the whole stance. The front aero pack is really great, along with the spoiler. Now, the reason why I pointed out a few of these cars is because I personally love each and every one of these and what they did. But you got to remember, it's not what I want. It's what the consumer wants, it's what the bank wants, and maybe what the dealership is selling. So that's why today we're going to give you three sides of the story when it comes to doing this type of modification and fabricating on your vehicle. Because a lot of people have this misconceived notion where if you drop $30,000 into customizing and modifying your vehicle, it's totally worth it. And we're going to give you some examples of where it is and a few examples of where it's not. And there's only one car, or I guess two types of vehicles that I've ever seen in my life that no matter what you do and you customize them, they're always worth more money. And we're gonna say that one towards the end of the video, so make sure you stay tuned. So now we're gonna start off on what is a tasteful modification. So here are three examples of modified / custom cars. Now we're gonna go over a few of these, plus there's some more in the back here that I'm gonna show you, and we're gonna go over the differences on how modifications look and how they're actually valued. Now, if we start off with like this Mclaren, you can tell looking at it, the paint is flawless. You got good body lines all the way through, so it lets me know that they bought a good quality carbon fiber piece. As well as, if you are not a Mclaren person, you would probably think that this thing is stock, not knowing that a lot of this stuff is aftermarket, but it's very tastefully done. The wheels match the body, which matches the carbon fiber, which matches the inserts. It's just a very nice layout. I call it color symmetry. So it's a very nice balance between one thing or another. It's not too much, it's not over the hill. You know, even though this wing is massive, I personally love it. Now, some traditionalists may not like it. So that's why when you start fixing up cars like this, you need to find out if the customizing you're doing is gonna make somebody else value that particular vehicle. Now right here we have an amazing Lamborghini Huracan. This thing has forged carbon fiber everywhere. Now we're going to kind of zoom in to show you. Now this particular kits are extremely expensive. He's got the wing that matches. We also have the forged carbon fiber roof. You see the fenders. Beautiful anarchy wheels. Very nice blend between black and carbon fiber, so it pops just enough. Now, so I personally love the whole layout of the vehicle, but some people may say, hey, you know what? I don't like that much carbon fiber, or it's too much, or maybe it's not enough. And so that's why I tell people when you're customizing, it's a little bit harder to build and modify your car to find the actual vehicle's value. Now this car, like I said, is absolutely gorgeous and it has an e-brake. This thing is made to scoot. Let's see if we can get a picture of the supercharger in the back. If you guys can see that, that thing is epic. And then inside here, if you guys can kind of see, we have the metal e-brake behind the steering wheel, so you can actually do some drift action. It's right there. So this thing was modified to not only look good, but to perform and to actually do something special. So a lot of times when it comes to modifying and customizing, a lot of people only see cosmetic or they see super performance. This is a nice blend of both of those, where you have a supercharger, but you also have outstanding aerodynamics and a really like menacing front end. Like, I love the way it looks with the forged carbon, you know. But once again, does this increase the value of the vehicle? Now we're going to go over a little bit more, but I want to show you one more car, which is this Lamborghini Urus. Like I said, very tastefully done. Nice mixture of carbon fiber, if you can see that, with the paint that's black. Very aggressive front end, which I absolutely love. and those wheels just set the whole thing off apart. It is a very classy, refined modification and customizing to this vehicle. It's nothing over the top, nothing too crazy, but it's very subtle where it almost looks like this could be factory along with the Mclaren. Now, some of the things that are going to set other things apart from this is quality. Now, you can go out and spend a bunch of money on car parts and stuff like that, but if you don't put it on correctly, it looks really bad. So we're going to start off with the hood. As you can tell, you look at the corners, there's no cracking. The gel coating in the clear is pretty much flawless the whole way through. The weave is a consistent pattern the whole way across. And then if you look at it, you shake the hood, everything is very stiff. Nothing wiggles. That's the way it's supposed to be done. A lot of people, especially dealerships, banks, and consumers, are afraid of buying customized vehicles or modified vehicles because they know that the work wasn't done right, or they don't know if it is. Where a lot of times, if you were to buy a car like this, and let's say so for perfect example, we're gonna use Voodoo's car here, you know, you can show documentation saying, hey, look, I got these quality carbon fiber pieces. I installed it at a professional shop. And so therefore you won't have any problems with fit, finish. Everything is bolted correctly. It's done right. Now I'll show you my spoiler because I kind of just Mickey Moused it in the last few minutes, but I want to show you the difference between this. Like, look how aggressive this wing is. Look at the mounts, everything else. But when I grab it, even though this thing is pretty big, it does not move. It is safe, it's secure, it's done correctly. Now I'm gonna go over here and make fun of myself, and I'm gonna show you what I did to my Audi wing. So we're walking here to the shop. Some really cool cars. They got some beautiful cars on here. Look at that one. And we have my car, the R8. So like I said, I showed you that spoiler. I'm gonna show you what I did to mine. I bolted mine up really quickly, but I didn't do everything correctly. So now if I grab it like this, as you guys can see, this wing actually functions, and I made it non-function just quickly so I could put this wing on for a rally. But this is a perfect example of, if I were to sell this before fixing it, which I am fixing it, you know, people see this stuff and they're like, oh man, this is not modified correctly. So if I get a body kit or wheels or ground effects or, you know, interior work or something done, they're gonna think in their heads that that type of laziness pretty much goes through the whole car, that nothing is done correctly. And that's what hurts a lot of the values when it comes to buying or selling your modified vehicle. So do I believe that putting exhaust on my R8 will make it worth more money? Probably not. It's going to be really done. This is actually going to have one of a kind. It's going to have a center exhaust exit, which is going to be awesome. I'm going to show you guys some videos a little bit later. But the reason why I did it is because I wanted the sound. I wanted to hear how aggressive that V10 is, because on the R8s, it's the same motor as a Lamborghini Huracan, but it doesn't have the same exhaust and it's not tuned the same way. So when you're wrapping it out at 8,000 RPMs, it's actually pretty quiet. I want to be able to crackle, to pop, sometimes even shoot some flames out of the back end, and this exhaust is going to allow me to do that. But also at the same point, like I said, I keep in mind knowing that that is my personal taste. That's what I want. That's what I think is cool. Now, do I think that other people are going to enjoy the exhaust on this vehicle? 100%. I think whoever buys this after I own it, they're going to rev it a few times, they're going to drive it around the block, and they're absolutely going to love it. So right now we're actually going to go out and I'm going to show you another example. We got Will behind me. We're going to check out his Mustang. It is probably one of the coolest Mustangs I've seen here in LA. We're going to give you the breakdown of what it is. To say that. Exactly. So definitely shout out to Will. How do they follow you?
Bilko. Just add Bilko on IG.
Perfect. So we're going to go outside right now and show you his vehicle. We're going to go over his Mustang, what he spent on it, what he's basically done with everything, and some of the ways he's actually been able to recoup his money. And we're going to find out, is it worth the money he spent on his vehicle? Okay, we're here with Will's 2014 Ford Mustang. Will, tell us, what have you done on the outside? We're not going to talk about it on the inside, but then also tell the people how much you actually spent doing all these things.
Okay, so on the outside, I've got my ESR wheels. I have the GT500 front 4-piston Brembo kit. Aftermarket rotors all the way around, obviously the wrap. Okay, so here is the heart of Will's vehicle. If you can see, this is a supercharged V6. Now I'm sure everybody's probably freaking out because, well, first tell them how much horsepower it has. I actually don't know. We're guessing somewhere in the ballpark of north of 500 crank horsepower.
But you can tell you're a real car guy because even though you got a V6, you actually spent quite a bit of money. So if you just want to tell people like the type of the supercharger, how much money have you spent like in this engine bay?
in the engine bay. The supercharger kit, I believe, was between $6 and $7 grand, and then the installation was between $3 to $6, I think is what I got charged. And then I've done a few other things like the aftermarket throttle body, the spacer, the catch can.
Okay, now one of the reasons why I wanted to show Will's vehicle, because it's very impressive for what he's done with the vehicle, but also with the $40,000 you spent, how much money do you think if you were to sell it today, what would you get for it?
I guess on a good day, maybe 20. And that's just because it's well known on the internet too. And I maintain it really well and I keep all my service records.
But here's the best part. Is it for sale?
Absolutely not. No, it's not.
Exactly. Now, you put all this money into it because I'm sure, it makes you money from social media and stuff like that. If you can't tell his rap, he literally, any car that's tagged like this, you're forever known as hashtag Billco.
Yep.
So you're pretty much going to be owned by his car. But also, just the amount of like social media influence, people have gotten to know you. Like, this car has technically made you money, correct?
Absolutely. Oh, without a doubt. And that was the whole point of it, was the brand of my channel was to buy a car that anyone could afford, because I was on minimum wage when I bought this car and built this car.
So we're gonna go ahead and take a look inside the engine bay here. Now, what year is this Mustang?
This, I believe, is a
17 Shelby GT350.
Yep.
And what has he done to it so far?
So this has a Gen 3 Whipple tuner kit on it.
What do you think he spent just on like the supercharger?
Probably around 7,000, I'd say. That's about what these kits run at.
Okay, and then with the other modifications like suspension and everything else, what do you think that'll total to?
Shoot, all together on this car, I'd say he's probably 15 to 20,000 with the transmission mod that's on it.
All right, now, in your personal opinion, you being an automotive tech, how do you feel, is this car worth what he spent the money?
Not for the resale. So, say if he went to go sell this car, he'd probably only get mid-50s for this car. If you had a dead stock, you'd probably get mid-60s for this car. The guys that buy this kind of car, they're kind of loyalists. They want to keep stuff typically stock or just tasteful mods.
Yeah.
This is a pretty much full tilt boogie car.
Yeah, but just from like, I call it like our personal like wow factor, the smile factor, like getting in this car to hitting the gas and hearing the Whipple light up. I mean,
this car's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
This is, I think, probably a great example of, you know, don't worry about the value when it comes to modding your cars, because so many people are like, oh, I'm going to hurt the resale value. Just the wow factor and the smile factor, the fact that it launches you back in your seat and you're like racing after supercars in this car is just an absolute blast. And now with the transmission you guys are doing, this can actually be, you know, driven on almost a regular basis that makes it more daily drivable.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot more reliable. There shouldn't be any more issues. I mean, this is kind of the last piece of the puzzle for this type of car.
Yeah, so this is like I said, perfect example. You can modify your car, but if you don't do the whole thing all the way through, you hurt the reliability. So when it comes to resale value, if you can show this to your customers, we got the superchargers, we got the brakes, we got the suspension, we got the transmission, we got everything taken care of that can handle this horsepower and it can be daily driven, I think it'll definitely raise the value of the vehicle. So we got underneath the Mustang here. Can you kind of tell us what you guys are doing currently to the vehicle?
So this current job is a Tremec T56 Magnum XL. So this is the big, beefy 6-speed. This had a 6-speed in it, but they can only handle, I think, about 500 foot-pounds of torque. This one handles over 700. So we also did a S1 sequential shifter on this car from Australia. It's the first time we've gotten to mess with that shifter, and we believe it's the first time on this platform, in this combination, that it's ever been done.
You guys have to check out this shifter. This is probably the craziest thing I've seen besides a non-race car. So just kind of give them a demo and then explain how it all works.
So basically this is going to make a sequential shift. So all forward, we're in neutral right here. So you go one pull back, that engages first gear. And then you just keep going through the gears. Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. And then right back down through.
Now, here's the big question. How much does a shifter like that cost?
This exact shifter was $2,000 with tax and shipping.
So we talked about modifying a little bit on a personal level. We showed you Will's car, very fun, exciting car. He spent a lot of money on it. You know, we showed you another crazy Mustang that had some amazing work done to it. Now we're sitting back here to the Mclaren, and I wanted to go ahead and give you guys kind of the business end when it comes to modifying your vehicle and if it's actually worth it. Now, as a dealer, I'm always worried that the modifications done to the vehicle were not done correctly. I always have to think about that in my head. So even though, let's say this car's book is $200,000, I will be probably more likely to offer a little bit less, not knowing that it's done correctly. But if they were to come with something like this and say, hey, look, I got it done at a professional shop, look at the fit and finish, you know, kind of go through it, then it makes me feel a little bit better, and I can actually add more money to it because I know this car has the looks to sell. And that's something that makes people feel a lot better. Now, as a dealer, I'm always worried, is the quality of the actual build good? Now, I see a lot of people buy parts off of eBay and stuff like that, these crazy Chinese pieces, and the fit and finish is really bad, and we don't know if it's installed correctly, because you gotta remember, cars like this, you know, go over 200 miles an hour. So people that drive these things, even like my R8, you know, it's like we're going 150, 160 sometimes on rallies, you know, not in the United States, of course, but you know, we're going really fast, and we want to make sure that, you know, this Chinese hood that we bought's not going to fly off and destroy somebody or kill somebody. So that's why it's very important when you do builds like this, you get it done by somebody that does quality work. Now, if I were to buy this car at auction, like I said, I would be worried about it. I would think a little bit backwards. I'm like, okay, well, this is a beautiful car. It's got the look, but is it done correctly? And let's say MMR or Blue Book or something like that is, let's say, $225 on this vehicle, I'd be more inclined to pay maybe $220. So I got 25 grand as a buffer to go through and fix whatever may need to be done. Now, if I buy it from a person and they're like, look, this is the shop I had it done at, look at the fit and finish, here's the quality, here's my receipts, then that actually adds value to something like this, where pretty much everybody that buys a Mclaren, all my friends and other YouTubers, as soon as they buy a Mclaren, this is exactly what they do to it. Wheels, aero kit, tune, massive spoiler, and you're ready to go. So this will actually help you sell the car that much quicker, because if, let's say, this one is 1 year older than another one I have on the showroom floor, and the other one has lower miles, this one, just because of the look, because of the aero kits, the wing, the tune, everything else, and the wheels, this is exactly how people want to customize their cars when they buy them. So in those small instances, it makes it worth actually more or just as much as a regular car. And that's why it's very hard to put into, I guess, into perspective on if customizing or modifying a vehicle will actually hurt the value of the vehicle. Now, there are some really gaudy, ugly cars that I've bought at the auction. Now, with exotic cars and supercars like this, most of the customers have the money to do the right repairs, buy the right parts, and actually pay a shop to do it correctly. Now, if you were to buy something, let's say like JDM, like I said, I love Japanese cars, very dependable, good for resale, but the JDM community as a whole is awful when it comes to customizing the cars. Everything you pretty much get is 9 times out of 10 from China. It doesn't fit right. It's very tackily made. It's put on by some kid in his driveway, which, like I said, no disrespect. That's how we all start. But as a dealer, I don't like the look of that, because I know that I'm gonna have to fix it. Every time I get a Subaru, every time I get a GTR, every time I get a Lexus IS 250 or 350, it's like something is going to be wrong with them, guaranteed, because they put some ugly wheels, they put, you know, a bunch of parts that don't fit correctly, they put a cheap Chinese header that's actually blowing holes in the exhaust manifold. Like, stuff like that is very, very bad. So when it comes to modifying your car, as long as it's done tastefully and it's done correctly, it'll bring you the money. So even though, like, perfect example, like this car, red and burgundy is a good color for resale. Now, I would wrap this car, you could wrap it purple, you could wrap it pink, it doesn't matter. The bottom end of the day is the paint is actually burgundy. When you're customizing a car, do not change the color, just wrap it. It blows my mind where somebody will have like a beautiful pearl white car and they'll paint it like Ninja Turtle green, thinking it'll bring, you know, more looks and more shows, which yes, it will, it stands out. But at the end of the day, now you have a car that's been taken apart, that's been repainted. You're gonna go inside there's gonna be bolts missing, screws missing. You're going down the freeway, you hear a little bit of rattling. That's what dealers think when we think of highly customized cars. Now we're gonna talk about how the bank looks at vehicles like this. Now, banks are always worried about risk, about loss. So when it comes to stuff like this, you know, like I said, Mclaren is an exotic car brand. Everybody knows these cars have a lot of maintenance issues, but the people that buy these usually tend to have the money to fix them. So when they see modifications on vehicles like this, they're okay up to a certain point. They will not give you extra money. They will not say, if this guy put a all carbon fiber body kit and it costed him $30,000, the bank is more than likely not going to be adding a $30,000 additional value on that vehicle to cover that expense. Now, if you get all the car with all these modifications right around the Kelley Blue Book retail price, and you have a strong credit score and you've already had an over $100,000 car loan, then they would probably do that. But when it comes to some of these other cars, you know, like we talked about, like Mustangs, you know, unless you're getting it from the factory, Ford Motor Credit will finance, you know, superchargers, turbos, whatever else you want to put on it, a bunch of upgrades, wheels, aero kits. Ford has a special financing program for stuff like that. But when it comes to, like, you know, exotic cars, my R8, no. Mercedes, BMW, none of those ones have it unless you buy their performance brand, which is like AMG for Mercedes, M3 for BMW. If you buy it from the dealership with M3 packages and stuff like that with the warranty, then most finance companies and most banks will go ahead and offset that risk and give you a bigger loan. But a lot of them don't like to take those types of risk because, you know, this car is very rare, it's very unique. Now, if you crash the front end, not only do you have to pay for a, you know, $6,000 front bumper, now you got to pay an additional maybe $3,000 to $5,000 for an aero kit, and they don't want to spend that extra money if for some reason you were to crash it, not being able to afford it, and then the bank has to repo it. So the bank is thinking, like, if I have to repo this, what is it going to cost me to fix, maintain, replace it, and be able to sell it? And that's some of the things that scare a lot of people. So when I see people trying to buy, like, really rare exotic cars or classic cars or even like JDM cars from overseas, a lot of the banks don't like to finance this stuff because they can't, there's not enough markers in the industry to let them know they can recoup their money. So if you buy a right-hand drive Supra and you import it and you crash it, the banks are more likely not going to give you whatever the $50,000, $60,000 that you paid to import it. They're probably going to give you closer like to 20 something, whatever Kelley Blue Book retail is for it. Same thing with this car. I can be like, hey man, I paid $225 for it, but it's got $60,000 in modifications. This car is worth, you know, $280, you know, and then I get in an accident, the bank or the insurance company is only going to want to pay out anywhere from, you know, whatever the Kelley Blue Book is, you know, and sometimes they'll actually take money away from the actual modifications. Also, when it comes to cars like this, you need to make sure that you are honest with your insurance company. I see so many people screw up where they'll spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 customizing their cars and they don't tell their insurance company about it. A lot of times, if you just tell them what you put into it and provide receipts, they will give you a ledger where they'll give you up to 60, 70, 80% on your parts if you pay an additional premium. So if you have like classic cars, exotic cars, hey, look, I put $30,000 into my car. I need an additional $30,000 worth of coverage. Okay, your premium may go up maybe 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 bucks a month, but now you're covered. So if something happens and they take your beautiful one-of-a-kind Mclaren and they wrap it around a telephone pole, you will be compensated correctly. That's another reason why, like I said, banks don't like to give you the extra money, because if the insurance company only pays out the wholesale Blue Book or retail and you still have $30,000 left on your loan because it had all these great modifications, the bank doesn't get paid off completely, and now they have that deficit in their books, and they're hoping that you as a customer will pay that off, you know, to make things right. So that's another reason why. Now, we talked a little bit about one or two specific type of vehicles that buck this trend, and it's actually right here to the left of me. It is a Jeep Wrangler and any type of truck. These vehicles are the only vehicles that are actually worth more money by book and by bank standards than a traditional Jeep Wrangler. Where like this Mclaren will get more money from a bank if it's factory. But that Wrangler right there will buck all trends. We used to buy these things stock at the auction as rental cars. We'd put a 3-inch lift on it, put 35 or 37-inch tires with some wheels, a light bar, throw it in the auction, and we would get an additional $10,000, $15,000 on top of what we bought it for, because people were so nuts about these vehicles. Now, those cars right now, you're overpaying for them so much, there's no market. I think if I bought it and did that, I'd probably make $1,500 and I'd have to spend close to $30,000. It's not worth the risk. But that's one of the few cars that, like I said, if I told a bank that it's a lifted Jeep Wrangler, they'll give me 150, 160% of LTV, which is loan to value. And that's one, like I said, one of the few cars. The other ones are trucks. Chevy, Ford, some Toyotas, like Tacomas, they will. Tundras, they will not. So a lot of our banks will give us extra money if I say, hey, I have a fully loaded Silverado 1500 that's lifted, wheels, modded. They will actually give me more money to lend to the consumer, and they'll even give me additional months. Hey, this car is a 2015, only qualifies for 60 months. But since it's, you know, over 40 grand, we're gonna go ahead and give you an additional, let's say, 10 months on your loan or additional 15 months or whatever else will make it 72 months. They'll do crazy things like that to offset for the value, because those vehicles, like I said, are the only ones that buck that trend. So keep this in mind. When you go to start modifying your car, think about it as a consumer. So we talked about the banks, we talked about the dealers. Once again, we're going to finish up on the consumer side. Is if you're modifying your vehicle, will the general public like what I did to it? You know, if it's classy build like this, where it's in, like I said, a nice contrast, the body colors are carbon fiber, it's not over the hill, it doesn't have some riveted wide body kit on it, it's very tastefully done, and you think that this will appeal to the general public, go for it. That's what you want to do. Now, if you're, you know, keeping the car for a long period of time and you want to customize and do all kinds of crazy stuff like Will's Mustang, like I said, I'm very impressed with his build. Yes, it's a V6 Mustang, but it makes him happy. It's brought him business. It's helped him network. That's actually how I met him as well. You know, and it's like that paid dividends in other ways than just the resale value. And that doesn't even include the smile it puts on your face. Just like we talked about my Audi R8. Is it going to make my car worth more money to put an expensive exhaust on it? Probably not, but I tell you what, when I'm ripping through the Las Vegas Boulevard and I hear those sounds and we're on the rally with the rest of the guys and we're hearing our cars roaring through a tunnel, it is worth every dollar I've spent. So once again, I want to encourage you guys to reach out to each other, appreciate each other's builds. There is no shitty build, there's no wrong build. You know, I talk jokes about being a dealer, like if I look like if it's put incorrectly. The reason I do that is because as a dealer, I'm liable for stuff like that. But you as a consumer, if you see some kid Mickey Mouse and some stuff and you know a better way, don't make fun of them. Say, hey, let me help you out. This is the correct way you do it. Show them how to weld, show them how to do stuff. If they're having a problem figuring out how to do fiberglass and you know it, do that. Or if you're a body shop or a customizing shop, take the time to get on YouTube, because all this stuff is on there. And plus we're gonna be doing videos here soon on like learning how to weld, learning how to fabricate, how to fit and finish panels, how to polish out carbon fiber. You know, even if you buy the cheap Chinese stuff, like what we do is we sand everything and re-clear it with DuPont clear. So this way it has more UV protection than the factory gel coating, because some of the stuff will turn yellow in a year. A lot of people don't want to spend $4,000 or $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for a panel just to have it turn yellow after a year. So make sure you do that. So anyways, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Please do me a favor, and if you learned anything, smash the like button for YouTube algorithm. Also, please consider subscribing. We do post 3 times a week. And once again, check us out on Instagram at automotive.life, and we'll see you next video.